He walked into that bakery to buy a cake for his arranged marriage. He walked out questioning everything he'd ever been told. Because standing behind the counter, holding 3 identical 4-year-old boys, was the woman he'd abandoned 5 years ago. The woman he was ordered to leave. The woman he thought had lost their child. But she didn't lose a child. She had 3, and one of them could read emotions with a single touch. This is the story of a mafia heir who thought power was everything, until he discovered what he'd truly lost. Welcome to a love that refused to stay buried. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another Afro-Korean romance you've never seen before. Today's story will stay with you long after it ends, I promise you that. But first, I want to ask for your help. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you matters. So if you're enjoying these stories, please hit that subscribe button. It truly helps us grow. Now, let's begin. And don't forget to grab your tissues. The city didn't know his name, but it knew his silence. Dae-hyun moved through Manhattan like a shadow that owned the light. At 32, he was everything his father had sculpted him to be. Cold, calculated, untouchable. The kind of man who could end a life with a phone call and never lose sleep. The kind of man who wore $5,000 suits like armor and never let anyone see the boy beneath. Today, he had one task. Simple, mundane, laughable almost. Buy an engagement cake. His wedding was in 2 weeks. Arranged, strategic. A merger between his father's Korean mafia empire and a powerful Chinese syndicate. The bride was elegant, intelligent, obedient. Everything a man in his position needed. Everything except the one thing he'd buried 5 years ago. The bakery was small, tucked between a laundromat and a bookstore that looked older than grief itself. His driver had suggested a place in Soho, something upscale, something fitting for a man of his stature. But Dae-hyun had insisted on this one. He didn't know why. Or maybe he did, and that's what terrified him. The bell above the door chimed softly as he entered. The scent hit him first. Vanilla, cinnamon, something warm that felt dangerously close to memory. His bodyguards stayed outside, flanking the door like silent sentinels. Inside, the world felt smaller, quieter. And then he saw her. Time didn't stop. It shattered. She stood behind the counter, her back to him, wearing a simple apron dusted with flour. Her hair was longer now, pulled into a loose bun that exposed the curve of her neck. The same neck he used to kiss in the dark, whispering promises he'd been too weak to keep. Amara. His chest tightened. The air in the bakery felt too thick, too heavy, pressing against his lungs like a fist. She turned. Their eyes met. And for the first time in 5 years, Dae-hyun forgot how to breathe. Her face was the same. Those deep brown eyes that used to look at him like he was more than his father's weapon, more than the empire he'd inherit. But something had changed. There was a guardedness there now, a wall built from betrayal and survival. She didn't smile, didn't gasp, didn't cry. She just stared at him like he was a ghost she'd learned to live without. "Can I help you?" Her voice was steady, professional, as if they were strangers. As if he hadn't once been her entire world. Dae-hyun opened his mouth, but no words came. His mind, always sharp, always 3 steps ahead, went utterly blank. And then he heard them. Laughter. High-pitched, innocent, shattering the fragile silence between them. 3 small boys burst through the doorway behind the counter, chasing each other in a whirlwind of giggles and chaos. They couldn't have been older than 4. Identical. Same dark hair, same round faces, same eyes. His eyes. The world tilted. Dae-hyun gripped the edge of the counter to steady himself, his vision narrowing to a single impossible truth. "Mama, can we have the cookies now?" one of them asked, tugging at Amara's apron. "Not yet, baby," she said softly, her hand resting protectively on the boy's head. She didn't look at Dae-hyun. Didn't acknowledge the way his entire reality was collapsing in real time. But he saw it. The slight tremble in her fingers. The way her jaw tightened. The way she positioned herself between him and the children like a lioness guarding her cubs. Amara. His voice came out rough, broken, a plea disguised as a name. She finally looked at him again, and this time, there was no wall, just raw, unfiltered pain. Leave. Leave. One of the boys, the smallest, looked up at Daehyun with wide, curious eyes. And then he did something that made Daehyun's blood run cold. The child reached out and touched his hand. For a moment, nothing happened. And then the boy gasped, stumbling backward into his mother's arms. "Mama," he whispered, his voice shaking. He's so sad. So sad. Amara's eyes widened in alarm. She scooped the child up, holding him close. Daehyun stared at them, at her, at the boys, at the life he'd unknowingly destroyed. His father's voice echoed in his mind, cold and absolute. "She lost the baby. It's for the best. You have a duty to this family." But she hadn't lost the baby. She'd had 3. And one of them could feel his soul breaking. Daehyun took a step forward. Amara took a step back. "Don't," she said, her voice cracking. "Don't you dare." The bell above the door chimed again. His head bodyguard stepped inside, concern etched on his face. "Sir, is everything?" "Get out," Daehyun said, his tone leaving no room for argument. The man hesitated, then left. Silence swallowed the bakery whole. Daehyun looked at Amara, at the woman he'd loved more than his own life, the woman he'd been forced to abandon, the woman who was now looking at him like he was the villain in her story. And maybe he was. "I thought," his voice cracked, "I thought you lost the baby." Amara's laugh was bitter, sharp enough to draw blood. "No, Daehyun, you lost us." The smallest boy was still staring at him, tears streaming down his face. "Why is he so broken, Mama?" Daehyun's knees almost gave out. Amara held her sons tighter, her eyes blazing with a fury born from 5 years of survival. "Because some people," she said, her voice trembling, "choose power over love, and they have to live with that." Daehyun stood there, frozen, as the woman he'd never stopped loving turned her back on him. And for the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to lose everything. He didn't leave the bakery. He couldn't. Daehyun stood outside in the rain that had started to fall, his bodyguards forming a silent perimeter around him. Through the bakery window, he watched her move, watched her laugh with customers, watched her wipe flour from one of the boys' cheeks, watched her live a life he'd never been part of. A life he'd stolen from himself. His phone buzzed. His father. Again. He ignored it. The rain soaked through his Armani suit, but he didn't care. For the first time in 5 years, the empire didn't matter. The wedding didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the 3 small faces he'd glimpsed through the glass. His sons. The word felt foreign, impossible, terrifying. He'd spent his entire life becoming his father's perfect weapon. Cold, efficient, emotionless. He'd buried every soft part of himself the day he walked away from Amara, believing his father's lie that she'd miscarried, that it was a blessing. That duty was all that mattered. But duty hadn't kept him warm at night. Duty hadn't filled the hollow space in his chest. Duty hadn't given him 3 identical boys with his eyes. The bakery door opened. Amara stepped out, pulling a thin jacket around her shoulders. She looked at him, and for a moment, he saw the girl he'd fallen in love with, the girl who'd laughed at his terrible jokes, who'd traced the scars on his back and asked him who hurt him, who'd made him believe he could be more than his father's shadow. But that girl was gone. In her place stood a woman forged by abandonment. "Go home, Daehyun." "I can't. You don't have a choice." "I have 3 reasons to stay." Her jaw tightened. "You gave up that right 5 years ago. I was told—" "I don't care what you were told." Her voice cracked, raw and sharp. "You left. You didn't fight for me, for us. You just walked away." The rain fell harder, but neither of them moved. "My father said you lost the baby," Daehyun said quietly. "He said it was a miscarriage, He said, "He lied." Amara's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "And you believed him, because it was easier than choosing me." The words hit him like bullets, because she was right. He'd taken the easy path, the safe path, the path that kept him in his father's good graces, that kept the empire intact, that kept him from having to choose between love and legacy. And now he was paying the price. "I want to meet them," he said. "No." "Amara, no." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a fierce whisper. "You don't get to walk back into our lives because your guilt finally caught up with you. Those boys? They're happy, they're safe, and they don't need a father who's already promised to someone else." His chest tightened. "How did you—" "Your engagement is all over the news, Daehyun. You're marrying the daughter of the Chen family. A strategic alliance. Isn't that what you people call it?" People. As if he wasn't human anymore. Maybe he wasn't. "I'll break it off," he said, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. Amara laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You can't. Your father would never allow it. And even if you could—" Her voice softened, turned sad. "I don't want you back." The rain became white noise. His heart became a funeral. "You don't mean that, don't I?" She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much, survived too much. "I loved you, Daehyun. I loved you so much it nearly destroyed me when you left. But I survived. I built a life. I raised our sons alone. And I don't need you to come back and ruin that. One of them—" He hesitated. "One of them touched me, and he said I was sad. How did he—" Amara's expression shifted. Fear flickered across her face. "That's none of your concern." "He felt what I was feeling. How is that possible?" She turned away. "Go home, Daehyun. Amara, please, go." Home. She walked back into the bakery, and the door closed behind her with a finality that felt like a coffin lid. Daehyun stood there in the rain, his suit ruined, his life unraveling. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. "Where the hell are you?" His father's voice was ice wrapped in fury. "The Chens are waiting." "You're embarrassing us." "I'm not coming." Silence, then low and dangerous. "Excuse me?" "I said I'm not coming. You will be here in 20 minutes, or I will personally come get you." Daehyun closed his eyes. "I found her." Another silence, longer this time. "The girl?" His father's tone shifted. "That's ancient history. She had my children, 3 of them. Impossible. She miscarried." "You lied to me." His father's laugh was cold. "I protected you. That woman would have destroyed everything we built. She was a distraction, a weakness. She was everything. And now?" His father's voice turned sharp. "What do you plan to do? Abandon your duty? Your bride? Your empire? For some baker and her bastards?" The word made Daehyun's blood boil. "Call them that again," he said quietly. "And I'll forget you're my father." A pause, then, almost amused. "You've grown soft." "Maybe. Or maybe I've finally woken up." He ended the call. The rain continued to fall. And somewhere inside that bakery, 3 little boys were probably asking their mother why the sad man was still standing outside. Daehyun looked down at his left hand, the hand the smallest boy had touched, and he realized something that terrified him more than any enemy ever had. That child had felt his truth. All of it. The love, the regret, the longing, the grief. And if one touch could do that, what else could those boys do? Daehyun didn't go home that night. He sat in his car across from the bakery until the lights went out, until Amara emerged with 3 sleepy boys bundled in jackets too thin for the autumn chill. He watched her hail a cab, watched her count out bills like every dollar mattered, watched her disappear into the city that had swallowed them both whole. And then he followed. Not close enough to be seen, but close enough to know. The cab stopped in front of a modest apartment building in Queens. Old brick. Fire escapes zigzagging down the facade like scars. The kind of place he would have condemned as unsafe 5 years ago. The kind of place Amara now called home. He watched her carry the smallest boy, the one who'd touched him, while the other two stumbled sleepily behind her. She fumbled with her keys, balancing the child on her hip, exhaustion written in every line of her body. She'd been carrying this weight alone. For 5 years. Because of him. Dae-hyun sat in the darkness of his car, his hands gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. He'd destroyed her, and she'd still built something beautiful. The next morning, he did something he hadn't done in a decade. He went somewhere without his bodyguards. The bakery opened at 7. He was there at 6:50, waiting in the pre-dawn cold like a ghost haunting his own past. When Amara arrived, alone, the boys presumably still sleeping, she stopped dead when she saw him. "You need to stop this. I need to know them." "Why?" She unlocked the door with shaking hands. "So you can feel better about yourself? So you can tell yourself you tried? Because they're mine." She whirled on him, fury blazing in her eyes. "They stopped being yours the second you left." "I didn't know." "You didn't ask," her voice echoed in the empty street. "You didn't fight. You just accepted whatever your father told you because it was easier than loving me." The truth of it carved him open. "You're right," he said quietly. "I was a coward." The admission seemed to steal her anger. She sagged against the door, suddenly looking every bit as exhausted as she'd been last night. "What do you want from me, Dae-hyun?" "A chance." "To do what? Play father for a few weeks before you remember you have an empire to run? Before your real family reminds you what matters? You were my real family." "Were." The word hung between them like a blade. Past tense. She pushed open the bakery door and stepped inside. He followed. The space smelled like her, warm, sweet, alive. Photos covered one wall, the boys at different ages, birthdays, first steps, moments he'd missed. His chest ached. That one. Amara pointed to a photo of the smallest boy, the one who'd touched him. "His name is Ji-hoon. He's 4 minutes younger than his brothers. And yes, before you ask, he can feel emotions. Through touch." Dae-hyun stared at the photo. "How?" "I don't know." She moved behind the counter, starting the morning prep with practiced efficiency. "It started when he was 2. He'd touch someone and cry or laugh or scream. It took me months to realize he was feeling what they felt." "Does he control it?" "He's 4 years old. What do you think?" The weight of that settled over him. A child walking through the world drowning in everyone else's emotions. "The other two?" he asked softly. "Min-jae and Tae-hyun, they're normal. As normal as they can be, growing up without a father." The accusation was clear. "I want to help." Amara's laugh was bitter. "We don't need your help. You're living in Queens, working 2 jobs, I'm guessing, raising 3 kids alone. Don't tell me you don't need help." She slammed a bowl onto the counter. "What I need is for you to leave us alone." "I can't." "Why? Because your conscience finally woke up? Because you realized what you lost? Because I never stopped loving you." The words fell into the space between them like stones into water. Amara went very still. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Don't. It's the truth." "The truth?" She looked at him and her eyes were oceans of pain. "The truth is, you chose your father over me. You chose an empire over our children. You chose everything that didn't matter over the one thing that did. I was 27. I was stupid. You were a coward." She said it again, softer this time. "And maybe you still are." The door chimed. A customer entered, an elderly woman who smiled warmly at Amara. Dae-hyun stepped back, watching as Amara transformed. The pain vanished behind a practiced smile. She laughed with the woman, packaged pastries with careful hands, made small talk about the weather. She'd built a life in the ruins he'd left behind. And he'd built nothing but an empire made of ghosts. When the customer left, Amara didn't look at him. "Your wedding is in 12 days. I'll call it off." "No, you won't." She finally met his eyes. Because I know you, Daehyun. You'll try. You'll want to. But in the end, you'll do what you've always done. You'll choose duty. Not this time. And then prove it. She crossed her arms. Walk away from your father. Walk away from the empire. Walk away from everything that made you abandon me. And maybe, I'll believe you're capable of change. It was an impossible ask, and they both knew it. If he walked away from his father's empire, he'd be marked for death. Every enemy, every rival, every ambitious second-in-command would come for him, and for anyone he loved, including Amara, including his sons. He couldn't protect them if he had nothing, but he couldn't have them if he kept everything. I need time, he said. You had 5 years. Amara, go home, Daehyun. Go marry your bride. Build your empire. And let us go. She turned her back on him, returning to her work. And he stood there, frozen, caught between two impossible choices. The door chimed again. Daehyun turned to leave, and found himself face to face with the smallest boy, Ji-hoon, the one who could feel souls. The child looked up at him with eyes too old for his age. You're not going to leave again, are you? Daehyun's breath caught. Amara spun around. Ji-hoon, baby, come here. But the boy didn't move. He just stared at Daehyun, his small hand reaching out. Don't, Amara warned. Don't touch him, baby. Too late. Ji-hoon's hand pressed against Daehyun's palm, and the child gasped. You love her, he whispered. You love us, but you're scared. You're so scared. Daehyun dropped to his knees, eye level with the boy, with his son. Yes, he said, his voice breaking. I'm terrified. Ji-hoon tilted his head. Of what? Of failing you, of losing you, of becoming the man who doesn't deserve you. The boy considered this. Then quietly, Mama says people can change. Do you believe that? Ji-hoon's smile was small, fragile. I felt your heart. It's broken, but broken things can be fixed. Daehyun's eyes burned. Amara was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. And in that moment, surrounded by flower dust and morning light and the ghosts of everything he'd destroyed, Daehyun made a choice. Not the easy one. Not the safe one. The right one. I'm not leaving, he said, looking at Amara. I'm not marrying her. I'm not walking away. Not again. Your father can go to hell. Ji-hoon giggled at the bad word. Amara shook her head. You don't understand what you're choosing. I'm choosing you. All of you. It'll destroy you. Then I'll be destroyed. He stood, his decision settling over him like armor. But I won't lose you twice. The bakery fell silent. Outside, the city woke up, oblivious, eternal, uncaring. Inside, a family tried to remember how to breathe. The phone call came at midnight. Daehyun was still awake, staring at the ceiling of his penthouse, a space that suddenly felt like a mausoleum. Cold, empty, built for a man who'd forgotten how to be human. His father's voice was granite. You have 24 hours to fix this. There's nothing to fix. The Chens are threatening to pull out of the alliance. Do you understand what that means? We'll lose Hong Kong. We'll lose half our shipping routes. We'll lose... I don't care. The silence on the other end was so complete, Daehyun wondered if the line had gone dead. Then, you don't care. No. Because of some woman and her bastards. Daehyun's grip on the phone tightened. Call them that again, and we're done. His father laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You think you can threaten me? You think you can walk away from this family, this empire, and there won't be consequences? I'm willing to find out. Then you're a fool. His father's voice dropped to something darker. I let you keep that girl alive 5 years ago because I'm merciful, because I thought you'd learned your lesson. But if you insist on throwing away everything I built for you, everything you were born to inherit, then I'll make sure she understands the cost of your stupidity. Daehyun went cold. If you touch her, you'll what? You'll be the dutiful son who finally grew a spine? Don't make me laugh. A pause. 24 hours, Dae-hyun. Marry the Chen girl, or I'll make sure your little baker and her children disappear. And this time, you won't even get to say goodbye. The line went dead. Dae-hyun sat in the darkness, his heart a war drum. He'd known this moment would come. Known his father wouldn't let him go without a fight. But hearing the threat spoken aloud, hearing his father reduce Amara and their sons to collateral damage, ignited something in him he'd kept buried for too long. Rage. Pure. Focused. Lethal. He made 3 phone calls. The first was to his most trusted associate, a man who'd been with him since they were teenagers running the streets together. I need protection detail on a woman and 3 children in Queens. Invisible. 24/7. No one gets close. The second was to his lawyer. I want every document, every contract, every piece of leverage my father has on me. I need to know what I'm up against. The third was to the Chen family patriarch. I'm calling off the wedding. Mr. Chen's response was immediate. Your father won't allow it. My father doesn't get a vote. A long pause. Then, surprisingly, you love someone else. It wasn't a question. Yes. Does she love you back? Dae-hyun closed his eyes. I don't know, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve the chance to find out. Mr. Chen sighed. Your father will come for you. I know. And for her. I know that too. Another pause. You're either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. Mr. Chen laughed, a sound far warmer than anything Dae-hyun's own father had ever produced. For what it's worth, I never liked this arrangement. My daughter deserves someone who will love her, not use her as a chess piece. I'll handle your father's wrath. You focus on not getting yourself killed. The line went dead before Dae-hyun could respond. One ally. Maybe. It would have to be enough. He showed up at the bakery at dawn again. This time, Amara wasn't alone. She was with all 3 boys, Ji-hoon, Min-jae, and Tae-hyun, teaching them how to frost cupcakes. Flour covered every surface. Frosting covered the children. And Amara's laugh, God, her laugh, filled the small space like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. She saw him through the window, and her smile died. The boys followed her gaze. Ji-hoon waved. Dae-hyun's chest ached. Amara said something to the boys, then stepped outside. The morning air was sharp, autumnal. She crossed her arms, a barrier between them. You're making this harder. I called off the wedding. Her eyes widened. You, what? I told the Chens I wasn't going through with it. I told my father I was done. Dae-hyun, you can't just... I already did. She stared at him like he'd grown a second head. Do you have any idea what you've just done? Your father threatened to kill you and the boys if I didn't fall in line. The color drained from her face. Which is why, Dae-hyun continued quietly, I've assigned a security team to watch over you. You won't see them, but they're there. No one will touch you. A security team. Amara's voice was hollow. This is insane. This is my world. And you want to drag us into it? I want to protect you from it. She turned away, her hands shaking. I can't do this. I can't live like this, always looking over my shoulder, wondering if someone's going to hurt my children because of you. I won't let that happen. You can't promise that. She whirled on him, tears streaming down her face. You're one man, Dae-hyun. Your father controls an empire. You think he won't find a way to hurt us? You think your security team can stop him? He wanted to lie. Wanted to tell her everything would be fine. But he'd lied to her once before. Never again. You're right, he said. I can't promise nothing will happen. I can't promise my father won't try. But I can promise I'll die before I let him succeed. That's not comforting. I know. He stepped closer. But it's the truth, and I'm done lying to you. Amara pressed her hands to her face, her shoulders shaking. Why? She whispered. Why now? Why couldn't you have fought for me 5 years ago? Because I was a coward. And now? Now I'm a coward who knows what he lost. She looked up at him, her eyes red and raw. I don't know if I can forgive you. I'm not asking you to. Then what are you asking? For a chance to earn it. Inside the bakery, Ji-hoon pressed his small hand against the window, watching them. Dae-hyun met his son's gaze and saw something that terrified him, understanding. That child could feel everything, could sense the war raging inside his father's chest, could probably sense the danger circling them all like sharks in dark water. They deserve better than this, Amara said softly. They deserve a father. They deserve a father who won't get them killed. The words were a blade, but she wasn't wrong. I'm working on that, Dae-hyun said. I'm dismantling my father's hold on me, piece by piece. It'll take time, but how much time? Weeks? Months? Years? She shook her head. I can't put my son's lives on hold while you figure out how to be a decent man. Then don't. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Take this. She stared at it. What is it? Plane tickets, new identities, money. Enough to start over somewhere he'll never find you. Amara's breath caught. You're telling me to run? I'm telling you to be safe. And you? I'll stay. I'll deal with my father. And when it's over, if I survive, I'll find you. And if you don't survive? He smiled, sad and small. Then you'll finally be free of me. She took the envelope with trembling hands, opened it, stared at the tickets inside. 3 destinations, 3 new names, 3 chances at a life without him. This is what you want? Her voice broke. You want us to disappear? I want you alive. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Amara looked at the tickets, at the bakery, at the 3 small faces pressed against the window. Then she shoved the envelope back into his hands. No. Amara, I spent 5 years running from the ghost of you. I'm not spending the rest of my life running from the real thing. She straightened, and despite the tears, despite the fear, she looked like a queen. You want to fix this? Then fix it. Fight your father. Win. And then, maybe we'll talk. If I lose, then we'll deal with that when it happens. But I'm not running anymore. She turned and walked back into the bakery. Dae-hyun stood there, the envelope heavy in his hands. Inside, Ji-hoon waved at him again, and this time, Dae-hyun waved back. A promise, a vow, a declaration of war. The war started 3 days later. Not with bullets or bombs, but with something far more insidious. Whispers. Amara's bakery suddenly failed its health inspection, a violation she knew she hadn't committed. The inspector, a nervous man with eyes that wouldn't meet hers, apologized profusely but shut her down anyway. Her landlord raised her rent by 40%. Her suppliers stopped returning her calls. And then the letters started arriving. Unsigned, untraceable. Leave the city, or your sons will pay the price. Dae-hyun found her sitting on the floor of the closed bakery, surrounded by letters, her face a mask of exhausted terror. He's destroying everything, she whispered. Dae-hyun knelt beside her, rage burning through his veins. I'll fix this. How? You can't fix your father. He's untouchable. No one's untouchable. She looked at him with hollow eyes. What are you going to do? Kill him? The question hung in the air like smoke. Dae-hyun didn't answer. Because the truth was, he'd already considered it, had already mapped out a dozen ways to end his father's reign. Clean, efficient, final. But patricide, even justified patricide, came with consequences he wasn't sure he could survive. There has to be another way, Amara said, reading his silence. I'm working on it. Work faster. She handed him one of the letters. He sent this to their preschool. Dae-hyun's blood turned to ice. The letter was a photograph of Ji-hoon, playing in the schoolyard, with a single line of text. Such a gift he has. Would be a shame if something happened to it. Dae-hyun crumpled the paper in his fist. His father had just threatened a 4-year-old child. His child. I'm pulling them out of school, Amara said. I'm taking them to my sisters in Philadelphia until... No. What? You're not going anywhere without protection. He pulled out his phone. I'm moving you, all of you, somewhere safe, somewhere he can't reach. Dae-hyun, this isn't a request, Amara. He's escalating, and I can't. His voice cracked. I can't lose you again, any of you. She stared at him, and for the first time, he saw not anger, but something softer. Understanding. Okay, she whispered. Okay. He moved them to a safe house in upstate New York. A sprawling estate hidden behind gates and guards, and enough security to make Fort Knox jealous. The boys thought it was an adventure, running through the massive house, exploring the grounds, laughing in a way that made Dae-hyun's chest both ache and sore. Amara was less enthusiastic. This is a prison, she said on the third night, staring out at the manicured lawn. It's safety. It's isolation. She turned to him. How long do we have to stay here? Until I neutralize the threat. And how long will that take? He didn't answer, because he didn't know. His father was a hydra, cut off one head, and 2 more grew in its place. Every move Dae-hyun made to dismantle his power was met with a countermove. Every ally he approached was either too scared or too bought to help. He was losing, and his father knew it. You should go, Amara said quietly. The boys are asking about you. They want to know why you're here. What I should tell them. Tell them the truth, which is that I'm their father, and I'm trying to be better than I was. She studied him for a long moment. Min-jae drew you a picture today. Tae-hyun asked if you like soccer. And Ji-hoon? What about Ji-hoon? He asked me if you were going to leave again. The words gutted him. What did you tell him? I told him I didn't know. She met his eyes. Because I don't. I want to believe you, Dae-hyun. I want to believe you've changed. But wanting isn't enough. Not anymore. Then let me prove it. How? He took her hand, the first time he'd touched her in 5 years, and the contact sent electricity through his entire body. Let me be here. Let me know them. Let me show you I'm not the man who walked away. Amara's eyes glistened. And if your father wins? He won't. You can't promise that. Watch me. He started spending every evening at the safe house. At first, the boys were shy, curious but cautious, watching him the way children watch strangers. But children are forgiving creatures. Min-jae, the boldest of the 3, was the first to break. He approached Dae-hyun with a soccer ball and a challenge in his eyes. Mama says you're our dad. I am. Can you play soccer? I can try. They played until the sun set, Min-jae scoring goal after goal, laughing every time Dae-hyun accidentally missed. By the end, the boy was calling him Appa without hesitation. Tae-hyun was quieter, more thoughtful. He watched Dae-hyun for days before finally approaching with a book. Mama reads to us every night, but she's tired tonight. Will you read to me? Dae-hyun's throat tightened. I'd be honored. They sat together in the massive library, Tae-hyun curled against his side, listening with wide eyes as Dae-hyun read about dragons and knights and happy endings. Do all stories end happy? Tae-hyun asked when the book closed. The best ones do. Will ours? Dae-hyun looked down at his son, at this small, perfect person who'd existed for 4 years without him. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it does. Tae-hyun smiled and fell asleep against his chest. And Dae-hyun sat there, afraid to move, afraid to breathe, afraid this moment would shatter if he acknowledged how badly he wanted it to last forever. But Ji-hoon was different. The smallest boy watched him with ancient eyes, never approached, never spoke to him, just watched. Until one night, Dae-hyun found him sitting alone on the back porch, staring at the stars. Can't sleep? Dae-hyun asked softly. Ji-hoon shook his head. Mind if I sit? A small shrug. Dae-hyun sat, keeping distance between them. They sat in silence for a long time, the night air cool and quiet. Finally, Ji-hoon spoke. I can feel you, you know. I know. Even when you're not touching me, your feelings are really loud. Daehyun's chest tightened. I'm sorry. Don't be. Jihoon pulled his knees to his chest. Most people's feelings are small, quiet, but yours are big, like thunder. Does it hurt you? Sometimes. The boy looked at him. But it's also beautiful. You love us so much it makes my chest hurt. Why did you leave if you loved us? The question was asked without accusation. Just curiosity. Daehyun took a shaky breath. Because I was afraid. Of what? Of not being good enough. Of failing. Of becoming someone you'd be ashamed of. Jihoon tilted his head. Are you still afraid? Terrified. But you're here anyway. Yes. The boy smiled. A small, fragile thing. Mama says being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the thing even when you are. Your mama is very wise. She cries at night sometimes, when she thinks we're asleep. She tries to be quiet, but I can feel it. Daehyun's heart shattered. I'm going to fix this, Jihoon. I promise. I know. The boy reached out, slowly, giving Daehyun time to pull away. He didn't. Jihoon's small hand pressed against his, and the child gasped softly. You're different now, he whispered. Before you were all broken pieces. But now you're putting yourself back together. Do you think I can do it? Jihoon's smile grew. I can feel your heart, Appa. It's already whole. You just don't know it yet. The word, Appa, broke something in Daehyun. He pulled his son close, and for the first time in 5 years, he let himself cry. Inside the house, Amara watched through the window. And despite everything, despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, despite the war still raging around them, she felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. The end came not with violence, but with paperwork. Daehyun had spent weeks gathering evidence, years of his father's crimes, meticulously documented. Money laundering, racketeering, murder, enough to bury the old man 10 times over. But turning his father over to the authorities meant destroying the empire, meant burning bridges with every family, every alliance, every connection that had kept their organization powerful for 3 generations. It meant becoming an outcast, a traitor, a dead man walking. He did it anyway. The FBI raid happened at dawn. Daehyun watched from a distance as agents swarmed his father's estate, as the man who'd ruled New York's underworld for 30 years was let out in handcuffs. His father's eyes found his across the lawn, and the look of pure hatred in them was almost enough to make Daehyun regret his choice. Almost. His phone rang. Unknown number. You just signed your death warrant. His father's voice was ice and venom. Every family, every soldier, every person who's ever feared me will come for you. You'll never be safe, and neither will they. I know. Then you're a fool. Maybe, but I'm a fool with a clear conscience. Conscience doesn't stop bullets. No, Daehyun agreed, but it helps you sleep at night. He ended the call and turned his back on the only life he'd ever known. The fallout was immediate and brutal. 3 rival families put hits out on him within a week. His assets were frozen. His allies disappeared like smoke. The penthouse, the cars, the empire, all of it seized or stolen or destroyed. He lost everything. Everything except what mattered. He showed up at the safe house that evening with nothing but the clothes on his back and a tired smile. Amara opened the door, took one look at him, and knew. It's done. It's done. She stepped aside, letting him in. The boys were in the living room, building a blanket fort. They looked up when he entered, and Min-jae immediately launched himself at Daehyun's legs. Appa, come help us. We're building a castle. Daehyun looked down at his son, at all 3 of his sons, and felt something shift in his chest. This was the empire worth building. Over the following weeks, they found a rhythm. Daehyun took a job as a consultant. Boring, legal, nothing like the life he'd left behind. The pay was terrible. The work was mundane. He'd never been happier. Amara reopened her bakery in a small town in Vermont, far from the city, far from the ghosts. The boys started school, made friends, learned what it meant to have a normal life. And slowly, carefully, Amara let Daehyun back in. Not all at once, not without conditions. But piece by piece, moment by moment, she allowed herself to believe he'd changed, that he'd stay. They had dinner together every night, helped with homework, played in the yard, read bedtime stories, became a family in all the ways that mattered. But they didn't talk about the future, didn't talk about the scars that still existed between them, didn't talk about the fact that he was still sleeping in the guest room. Until one night after the boys were asleep, Amara found him on the back porch. The same spot where Ji-hoon had asked him why he left. "Can't sleep?" she asked, echoing his words from weeks ago. He smiled. Something like that. She sat beside him, close, but not touching. "I got a letter today," she said quietly. His body tensed. "From who?" "Your father's lawyer. He's going to prison for life. No parole." Daehyun exhaled slowly. "Good. Is it?" She looked at him. "He's your father, Daehyun. Despite everything, He stopped being my father the day he threatened my sons." The conviction in his voice left no room for argument. They sat in silence listening to the crickets, the distant sound of wind through trees. "The boys love you," Amara said eventually. "I love them too. And me." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Do you still love me?" Daehyun turned to her, and the moonlight caught the tears in his eyes. "I never stopped. Even when you left, especially then." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "Leaving you was the worst thing I ever did, and loving you was the best. Those two truths lived in me for 5 years, tearing me apart. Until I saw you again and realized the second one was stronger. Daehyun, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm just asking you to let me stay. Let me be their father. Let me be here. And if someday, years from now, you decide I've earned a second chance, truly earned it, then I'll be the luckiest man alive. But if you don't, if you can never see me as anything but the man who broke your heart, I'll understand. And I'll still stay. Because being near you, even as just their father, even as just your friend, is more than I deserve." Amara stared at him, her eyes searching his face for any trace of deception. She found none. "You really mean that?" "Every word." She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, they were clear, decided. "I don't know if I can love you the way I did before. That girl, the one who loved you without conditions, without fear, she died when you left." His heart cracked, but he nodded. "I understand. But," she continued, her hand covering his, "maybe I can learn to love you as the person I am now. Stronger, wiser, more careful. It won't be the same love. It'll be harder, messier, more complicated. I'll take it," he said immediately. "Whatever you can give me, I'll take it." She smiled, sad and beautiful. "Then stay. Not in the guest room. Not as a visitor. Stay as part of this family. And we'll figure out what love looks like the second time around. What if I mess it up again? Then I'll kick your ass." Her smile turned sharp. "I'm not the same woman you left, Daehyun. I've raised 3 boys alone. I've survived your father's threats. I've rebuilt my life from nothing. If you hurt me again, I won't crumble. I'll fight back." "I'd expect nothing less." She leaned forward, and for the first time in 5 years their lips met. It wasn't the passionate, desperate kiss of their youth. It was something better. A promise. A beginning. A choice. When they pulled apart, Amara rested her forehead against his. "Don't make me regret this." "I won't. I swear." "Good." She stood, pulling him up with her. "Now come to bed. Actual bed. Not the guest room. Because if we're doing this, we're doing it right." He followed her inside, his heart so full it hurt. In the living room, 3 small faces peered around the corner of the blanket fort. Ji-hoon smiled. I told you his heart was whole. Min-jae pumped his fist. Does this mean Appa's staying forever? Tae-hyun looked at his mother. Are you happy, Mama? Amara looked at Dae-hyun, at her sons, at the life they'd built from ruins and regret. Yes, baby. I think I finally am. 5 years later. The bakery was thriving. Amara had expanded, hired staff, become a staple of the small Vermont community. The boys were 9 now, bright, beautiful, and completely unaware of the darkness their parents had survived to give them this life. Ji-hoon's gift had grown. He could control it now, turn it on and off at will. He used it to help people, to comfort classmates who were sad, to alert his teacher when someone was being bullied, to make the world a little kinder. Min-jae played soccer like his life depended on it, dreaming of professional leagues and stadiums. Tae-hyun read voraciously, already talking about becoming a writer someday. And Dae-hyun? Dae-hyun coached Min-jae's soccer team, helped Tae-hyun with his homework, taught Ji-hoon how to shield himself from overwhelming emotions, kissed his wife every morning like it was a privilege, because it was. He'd built a new empire, not of fear or power or violence, but of love, of family, of second chances. One evening, as they sat on the porch, the same porch where everything had changed, Amara leaned against him. Do you ever miss it? She asked. The power, the empire, the life you had before? Dae-hyun looked through the window at his sons, laughing over a board game, at the life he'd almost thrown away. Not even for a second, she smiled. Good answer. It's the truth. He kissed the top of her head. I spent 30 years building an empire that meant nothing. And then I spent 5 years building a family that means everything. There's no comparison. Even knowing what you gave up? Especially knowing what I gave up. He turned her face to his. You and those boys, you're my empire now, my kingdom, my legacy, and I'd burn the whole world down before I'd lose you again. Amara's eyes shimmered. You've gotten very good at saying the right thing. I've had a good teacher. Who? You, every day. Showing me what real strength looks like, what real love looks like, what it means to fight for something worth having. She kissed him, soft and sweet, and full of everything they'd survived to get here. Inside, Ji-hoon looked up from the game and smiled. Their hearts are singing, he told his brothers. What's that mean? Min-jae asked. It means they're happy. Really, really happy. Tae-hyun grinned. Good. They deserve it. And they did. All of them. Because some loves don't die. They just wait. Wait for the person to become worthy of them. Wait for the broken pieces to be put back together. Wait for the moment when duty and desire finally align. And when that moment comes, when love and choice and courage converge, it's not just a second chance. It's a rebirth, a new empire, built not on fear, but on hope, not on power, but on love, not on what was lost, but on everything that was found. The end. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support means we can keep bringing you more Afro-Korean love stories you won't find anywhere else. Until next time, remember, some loves are worth fighting for.